2019 money sign. Capital G.
Don't give it away. We're live. All right, buddy. Yeah, we're giving away our passwords live. How about that? We're on the YouTube. We're on the Facebook. We're everywhere. We just gave away all our secrets. All right, everybody. Listen. Welcome to today's call. It is Friday, April 12th of 2019, and this is the Realty Classroom sales training call, which I'm very excited to do this. I got all sorts of stuff happening here. I felt a little discombobulated as I hit go, but we're off and running, and the reason I'm excited is we're just getting a good result here, folks, and it is the collision of strategy with talent. And sitting to the left and right of me, I have the talent. Laura and Autumn running this whole conversion module and the sales module with me as we all sit on top of this foundation of taking this different approach with people, just believing that if you come in with a plan and you treat everybody on the phone face-to-face as the hero, good things happen. And they have been happening. So yesterday, on the campfire call and the mastermind, etc., there were a couple of things that I wanted to put in here before we get into some calling here, some recorded calls. And Laura, if you could write that number down that you just said aloud for me, and I'll be able to put that in. There's a couple of things that we talked about. I don't know if Andy, I'm going to open up the mics here so that we're live too, by the way. So remember, *6 me. We had Paul Cantu's Andy on the phone yesterday, and he was going through this whole listing scenario. And the scenario was that he had gone into a listing, and it had taken him a full hour to go through the house. And, you know, I guess that was like Paul Cantu, his team leader, company owner, and I hearing somebody scratching on a chalkboard, and we're saying to themselves, my gosh, how do you go through and do a walkthrough of a property and it takes you an hour? Well, the reason is Andy is relatively new in that situation and didn't quite know, other than what he was doing on instinct, exactly what to do. So he did the right thing. He spent time with these people, and he listened to these people, and he just flat out did a good job as he went through it with them. And so there you are, Andy, by the way, I'm talking about you. So,
yeah, sorry I'm late.
All good. So he went through the house, and he did what he thought was the default, which was he went to just indulge them. And I think what we're finding here in our business is that we're paying close attention to the fact that we're just really spending quality time with people, whether it's a 15-second phone call, whether it's a long follow-up, whether it's giving them statistics and property. We are just learning to really be good at giving the consumer a heavy dose of what they want, which is really starts with what you did, Andy, which was a little bit of love, right? And sometimes, yeah, and love and attention. However, it becomes necessary to balance that love with system, with editing, and with control, right? And just because, and this happens a lot in this sales training call, where a lot of people believe they're like, okay, well, you're getting a little touchy-feely. What about the leads? What about the appointment? What about all that stuff? Oh, no, I have never lost sight of all that and what's important. I understand what my proposition is here. It's a business proposition. And if it is not profitable, we have a serious problem. So my first and ultimate goal is to make sure that we get an outcome. I'm telling you about methodology, formula, and technique, but I'm not lost that all of that is there for one main reason, and that is to make sure that we go out there and we get a result, period. We need appointments ultimately, but before that, we need prospects, people willing to engage us, willing to accept further information, which they've done, and they've done it in a very short period of time en masse. So, Andy, to your case, it's at every point in the process of this business relationship, it becomes extremely important to understand what the next level is. What am I trying to do? And we're working with that, with Autumn on that right now. And she was just in some live calls in front of me, and we were all excited because there was a result, there was engagement. But sometimes in the heat of that emotional moment, You didn't know clearly what the next level was, but neither did Andy. Sort of knows, but I think that's precisely why we lose ourselves to the emotion. We're excited. This is happening. I'm on that phone call that's working. I'm in that house and things feel good. I have a shot at this business. All of that is really beginning to unfold in front of us, in our own excitement, especially Autumn, you can attest to this, especially like the day, how many hours in a row did you call over there one day and nobody, right?
God, that was 5 hours.
5, right?
I
5.
believe it was 5 hours of solid calling.
Most people would say, I called and it didn't work for me. But you as a pro telemarketer, shake it off, come back the next, I don't know if it was exactly the next day. And then there was,
It was the next
okay,
day.
come on.
Yeah.
And what was
I
that
think
result?
The next day, didn't I do 3 or 5? Or
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I just whacked them out because
How many? 3?
Because that
yeah.
principle is that no energy is wasted.
And so they're wondering, what did we get for 3? Well, you got good, substantial conversations. In this current context, your calling expireds, right? Which will expand as time goes on. But you had substantial enough conversations where they didn't hang up on you. It wasn't an ogre. They welcomed the commentary that was positive about their property, and they welcomed the opportunity to receive our information from you. Yeah? Fair enough?
Yes.
Okay. And then that subsequently sets up your ability to follow up. Because look, I think one of the delusions currently in telemarketing sales in the real estate business is that everybody's just going to jump up and down and not be able to wait for us to come over to their house. So there's this, and again, there might be the phone calls or the leads that we get where that disposition is possible. For example, if somebody makes a home investors, folks, I coach multiple people that have both a retail and a home investors wholesale business. Presumably that person that calls is looking for a cash offer. You will be able to get into that house relatively easily, right? So I think context in that case matters a lot too, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So if the context is expired, they've already been beaten up, they're more reluctant to do something, so it's going to take several beats. Now let's take it further. The first beat that you've had is to send the package, and you've already had a couple subsequent follow-ups. One, you booked me an appointment to meet the guy, not at his house, but his business.
Yes.
Because he is a small business guy. Yes. He is at his shop 90% of his life, I'll guarantee you, right? Yes. And so it was appropriate for me to go there last night, and I had an excellent meeting with him. And it was all about the next step.
Right.
It wasn't about me walking in and trying to convince him to list with me. In fact, at least I did my diligence and drove by his house first. So I had a frame of reference, a locational reference. And then I did exactly what he asked to do. Please call first, which I did. Sent him about 5 minutes out if that's still okay. Yes, no problem. So we behaved the way that he wanted us to. And what it was he wanted that second introduction. I like you on the phone, but send him. Right?
Exactly.
Send him.
Deanna's the same way.
We have a second one that so far, and again, I'm giving you real live, updates as to how this methodology is working, and transparently saying, we're not trying to force anybody into an appointment.
So they recognize my position.
Exactly. So, and so we have a phone appointment with an elderly gal who is physically where at the moment?
She has a broken shoulder. She's 82. She's physically in Connecticut, Greenwich, and she said she'll list with you.
Yes. So we have a phone commitment to a large extent, which is going to be an easy one for me because, again, we're calling people in our wheelhouse. We're staying inside our comfort. We're staying inside our, money target, geographic target. And so people that we're getting on the phone are exactly what we hoped. They're appreciative of the conversation.
Right.
And I'll leave one more, that there's another large population with somebody that's a possibility that somebody's out of state with multiple properties. And I'm going to try to meet the brother and see one of them that has to go. And it is a white hot type of product for that in Boston, right? So there you go. So there's our update. Andy, how does this relate to you? Well, what it is that as in her job is a little bit easier because she's not going in and physically doing it. You're more so doing, and you're very much in the house, you're more so going through that formulaic approach there, where the one tweak yesterday was, we don't want to go through a property to be the full-blown coach at that moment. that may or may not come. It may or may not have already happened. In fact, Laura ends up coaching a lot of our sellers in a preconditioning way over many months. But the key is to remember, this is a formula when you arrive there. And what it means is that, sorry, I have allergies today. So what it means is that when you go into that house, Andy, you have this very small window of time where you have to get an outcome and you don't get lost. See, here's why. People want to talk about their own property and themselves and what it's like to live there and all that good stuff. That's why I have my adjustments to my seller qualifying questions so that we can deal with that as time goes on. But the real point is, Andy, you went in there and your job was to get to that table as soon as possible to discuss your formula. That is the outcome that you're looking for after the walkthrough. And to have enough time to deliver that information in a way that is digestible and not rushed. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. So now what I say is I actually use to remind myself, I actually use very specific language to deal with that. And the very specific language is very simple. Could you give me a nickel tour of the property? It's just something that means something to me. It's an old-fashioned statement for the nickel's worth of fun. Take me for a fun ride through your house. Let me see what's happening here. Now, as the professional guide, I could run through this house without them in minutes and know exactly what I needed to know. Like, let's just go there, right? I really don't need you to go with me because what am I doing? I'm really looking at condition and physicality of the property.
Right.
And I say physicality because I'm looking for any functional obsolescence. I'm looking for deterioration. I'm looking for condition. What kind of product do we really have here? Now, what I'm going to get through that tour is I'm going to get more of an emotional ride with them, the nickel tour. Take me through this. And I'm going to engage that in a very genuine way. Because I need the story of this place. And that's where we made our adjustments today. So from a tactical standpoint, I need to see condition. But from a story standpoint, I need to see features and benefits. My daughter loves this room because it has 2 windows and it overlooks out here. And, so you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So there are features and benefits that we need the story description, sure. But we're going to keep it moving. And if they start to ask me about conditioning, I'm not going to get swallowed up in that. I'm going to say, no problem. I'm making some mental notes of the things here. And when I sit down with you, that is part of my formula to discuss what I think you should or should not do to prepare for sale, period.
Mm-hmm.
That's how, Andy, that one piece there pulls it together. Now, remembering what I espouse here, and I think is really important, is that the foundational education here for all of you listening is that you must have a formula that's immutable laws for the buyer, meaning these are the immutable laws that any buyer is going to go through. We've put them in the right order, and we're going to explain that to you. Whether or not you're going to do business with us, wherever we encounter you, and you need, you want to hear, hey guys, banging around a little bit there. It's got to be quiet in the background here, okay? And you want to indulge in that whole process, then you need to have yourself rooted in that formula, period. Like, you can't get lost when you're talking to a buyer about where you're at. You can't. You need to be able to say there are immutable laws in a process. You need representation. And the first thing in a representation situation is somebody's going to coach you through pre-qualification. Why? Because you need to know how much you can pay. Now, and more importantly, how that matches up to what's actually being sold at that price, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we go and we refine it online. We see some of your favorites. Those are immutable laws if they've done correctly and put in the right order. Now, on the sell side, it's the same thing, Andy. In the back of your head, you're going through this property now that you're physically there, thinking about, will this trade at or above or below the sale price that's in my analysis? Where will I be? And then the next stage is, am I going to have to really coach them on some conditioning issues here and upgrades? And am I going to then have to tell them to get rid of stuff and move furniture around, or do they even need a full-blown stager? Because I know they're going to want to know how I market the property, but I'm going to show them I can't even get there with you until we consider these items. So Andy, in the back of your head, the reason for the foundational system of 7 ways or 7 steps to home seller success is everything to you. You tracking me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, but go ahead. Talk to me.
No, there's no buts.
Okay.
No, I am tracking you. I think, from our conversation yesterday and then what I'm hearing today and and how I ruminated on it last night, I totally agree that I got wrapped up. I think I got wrapped up in a number of factors.
Sure.
It's my first listing presentation. I was excited about it.
For sure.
And so I wanted to give them my full attention and let them go speak to me, speak their heart to me about this.
Yeah.
And because of that, I had in the back of my mind, I want to do this presentation, but I let the time slip away.
Yeah.
I got wrapped up in the moment.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to.
Well, let me make a point here.
I didn't get to the meat.
Yeah, right. Let me make a point there. And this is precisely why we have to beware of our own emotions in all of this. And I'm sitting here with, a 35 plus year veteran on telemarketing, and she just got super excited over there. So it's normal. Because she had to pee afterwards. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. Somebody's into it when they have to pee immediately after, right? So I think what happens, Andy, is that we need to really pay attention to our own emotions. And I think the way that you can do that is by sticking to your remembrance of your formula. What am I trying to accomplish here today? Clearly that benefits the hero. It doesn't stop the people that are in front of you from being your hero. You're still there for their benefit. But if you allow the time to, per se, slip away, then you're not being the best guide that you can be. Because as much as they walk away, and here's the worst part of the story, as much as they walk away saying, my gosh, we really like you, the next guy that comes in that's your competition and says, okay, take me for the nickel tour, then let's sit down. Why are you moving again? Do you really need to do this? Are you really motivated? Because this is not easy. And here's the formula. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, the other realtor told us we should. No, I don't think so unless you want to. Do you want to do that work? Okay. I think what you need to do is this. This is how you prep yourself for sale. And you would lose. And you would scratch your head as a guy that went into his first listing. And I say you would lose for the sake of dramatic demonstration here today. I don't necessarily you would lose, but I'm saying you'd be in trouble. Like there'd be some serious competition, right? Because now this person just came in. They were black and white. They had a system. And people will make that decision. There'll be a trigger. If that person demonstrated a clearer sense of authority in the context of a listing agency, you are out. Because if you go to Robert Cialdini's book, anybody that's in business, sales, and you look at it and you think about the way people really make decisions, you must be fully aware of it. They might love you, and you did a great job with the goal of getting them to love you. That guy listened to us, but when the next guy came in, he just had a formula. And we just felt like he was the authority. And you're going to be up against this. You're going to be up against people like me that can roll a resume down the street. And the only way that you're going to compete against the best people in this industry is to stick to the yellow brick road of a formula that empowers them. The guidance in the form of a plan is a unique selling proposition, even in the face of going toe-to-toe with top producers. Period. I know that for sure. I have coached enough people over time who have come to me with that objection that have had to deal with it. That I say, look, just look them straight in the eye and say, yes, Sally has a great resume. So does Bob. But I'm not really sure what their plan is, and I'm here for you. I'm here to introduce you to an immutable set of rules and laws through which you must go to win at this. So indulge me, please take me through this, right? Let's go through this together. And as you have questions, immediately you've leveled the playing field. Now, if you go out the door and too much time elapses, they will forget your plan. They will forget your articulation, and they will default to something that's easier, to choose somebody with a longer resume or a bigger brand. So it becomes very, 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 very important to make every step cohesive and intertwined, which is what I was just teaching Autumn right now, is that every time you get that excitement in that mode, you need to make sure before you leave, there is a next level of upgraded service. Andy, you tracking?
Yeah.
Okay. So now you know what you did wrong. You went off the plan, and then you didn't have enough time because for whatever reason, they stopped you. But you still should have had enough time because it's only an infographic, right? So
well, they do have the infographic, and
No,
I
but-
stepped them, briefly through the infographic.
Okay. All right. Fine. So what did you feel like you didn't get done?
I didn't feel that I got to dive into marketing through closing in a bit more detail,
Okay.
more into the detail that I wanted to explain that, we do a higher level of marketing, and on the communication, I'm going to get the feedback from the agent and their clients, and I'm going to report back to you, and we can, and then we can assess where we are from there. So
Was that important to them?
Communication.
Was that important
Pardon?
to them? Was that important to them?
I don't know if it was important to them.
Okay, so here we go. So what's most important here is the adjustments that we made to the seller I told you about this, the seller qualifying questionnaire before we even arrive at this moment in time. See, you didn't do it intentionally, so don't take this that way. You became the hero of the story and you weren't. Okay? Because the minute you are trying to make it about getting in what you want to get in, you got it all in, but you wanted to say more. You didn't necessarily need to say more. And the reason I'm certain of that is because you're not telling me you asked them what was important and they said communication and they said marketing. Now, of course, a lot of people don't know the process, so that obligation to thoroughly take somebody into it, you could argue that. But what I'm just trying to isolate for you is that in that moment in time, you didn't know what was most important to them. So let me talk about this, right? So we've gone to a property, we've asked for the nickel tour, right? And they've taken us around. We take a look at what's happening there, right? Hey guys, got a little noisy mics. If you can remember, *6 me if it's noisy where you are. That'd be helpful.
Sorry, just got on.
All good. It wasn't you, by the way. So when you come in there now, right? You come into that situation and you've asked for the tour. Hey, thanks for having me over. I appreciate it. Very excited to see the property. Would you mind giving me a nickel tour of the property before we sit down and talk about it? No problem. And again, you're looking for conditioning and staging issues, and you're also trying to glean the story of the benefit of living here and the features that are key so that you can combine the two. But you want to move through that house at a pace that's reasonable, get to a place where you can set out your materials across from all decision makers, because your goal is to flip that infographic around as a guide who has an implement that is a guidance implement, meaning the infographic, and let everybody know where they are in the conversation at all times, okay? But prior to going through that, after you've set that up, you say, look, what I put in front of you is the formula that we follow. It's our system. And really what it is are the 7 immutable laws or steps in order of how any property gets sold. But I think it will allow me to indulge the conversation at a deeper level based on what's important to you. So before I get started, what is most important to you? Now, sometimes you get the flat out deer in the headlights look and they say, I don't know.
Right.
I hear that more often than not, which is again, a clue of opportunity. Prospects are silently begging to be led.
Yep.
Go ahead. Were you going to say something, Andy? You can stop me.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm reliving the meeting and the communication prior to the meeting, and I think they were explicit about what's most important to them, because they had asked me in the email, and also when I got there, and also in the conversation as we did the tour, was the condition of the house. What do we need to do to get it to a good state that's going to get the most dollar?
Okay, but yet here you are talking, but hold on, but yet here you are talking about communication, right?
But I wasn't. But we
closing.
spent the lion's share of time talking about the condition, the pricing, and the condition.
No, but what I meant is that you felt frustrated because I think you did a good job. I think you did the job. You just stayed way too long on one point. But I also think that as long as you hit communication and you hit closing, that wasn't that important to them, but it roots them in the fact that you have a system that closes a gap through closing, period. You did it. Now, let's get off of that. From that point in the beginning, even if you knew beforehand, you always re-ask the question. Hey, when we spoke on the phone, we talked about conditioning, right? We just walked through and we spent a long time talking about it. What else is important to you in this process? You see where I'm going? Just make sure you're rooting it out. And why? Because if you're a guide, you can still get them to the promised land, but not everybody goes up the path exactly the same way. You follow me?
Right.
Like everybody wants to experience these 7 immutable steps their way to a certain extent. Right? They want to have that experience. Like, okay, I'd like to stop and do more conditioning. I'm into it. Other people look at you and go, oh, hell no. I'm not doing anything. It's as is, where is. Right? So that's what I mean. Everybody's going through the same discussion about conditioning, but everybody's reacting differently to what they want to do with that or not. Right? So I think you still have to sit there and say, look, before I go through this, what's most important to you besides the conditioning of your property? Well, I want 24 hours notice before anybody comes to the property. No problem. We'll talk about that when we go into marketing and communication. I point to the little implement that I have there. That's where we'll hit that. So I understand is what Autumn says. I understand. Great. I'll hit that when we get there. Acknowledge them and don't forget to emphasize that point when you get there. Why? They are making a decision on a combination of these factors. One, you are a good guide with a good solid plan that they can understand simply. Two, that you're considering what's most important to them along that journey, right? And those are the triggers. If you're not listening to me, I don't care how good your plan is. If you can't make this relatable to me, that's where we personalize something that's universal. Yeah, go ahead. Come on, I can see. Laura's sitting next to me and she's bubbling up for some commentary here. Go ahead.
Honestly, this is going to sound crazy. I'm just thinking about like how I don't think any other agents in the world are talking about.
Exactly.
Guys, we're live with mics. Go ahead.
Like making it about the client.
So you think,
and that's an epidemic.
So you think after 12 years, you think after 4 months, the exact same thing. Every time we talk about this, you two are both stunned how little service there is out there that actually recognizes the home buyer and the home seller are not the hero of the story to agents. You're shocked that's.
No, I'm not shocked. It just makes me like shake my head like, God, if every real estate agent in the world could just grasp that one concept, our business would not have the bad name that it does.
Okay. And that's an education foundational problem. There is no plan being taught to an agent on how to take a seller or a buyer through the process in its entirety. That's simple. 13 points.
And the tool, I understand, really cannot be emphasized enough, because if you don't say, I understand, just 2 little words, That person is being lawnmowered by you.
Yeah.
That person is not feeling like they're being paid attention to. They see you want to make a sale.
Yeah.
Nobody will give you their business if that's what they see.
Well, think about this. You pay for guidance. You physically pay for guidance.
Right.
Right? So if I pay you something, unless I tell you explicitly, you're going to tell me everything to do, and I'm going to do only what you tell me to do,
Mm-hmm.
which nobody's going to do
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. I won't speak in absolutes. Maybe there's one lunatic that defers that much to you, right? And I don't even like those.
Yeah,
I don't like
they're
those
more
sometimes.
hassle
Yeah,
than
when
they're
somebody
worth.
just completely defers to you and they're not an active part of the process.
Ugh,
But
you
but
drag
would you ever go, like, let's just say you wanted to tour Arizona in the desert and you wanted to go out and see these beautiful rock formations, and you paid a guide, right?
Mhm.
And the guide says, yeah, I'm going to take you wherever I think. Well, no, I've been doing a little homework. I'd like to see,
Where
are we going to
wanna
see
go.
this? I just want you to get me, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
it's this it's still interactive, and there's still leadership involved. I mean, the guide is not going to be some patsy and you know, lay down. So
And he better say to me, I understand.
yeah, good. All right, let's go to Laura. You're going to have to show me where these calls are. Andy, what's most important to them? You got through this, and the final beat is, what did you set them up? I need to find these reports, these recorded calls.
And let me tell you the one to listen to. What
Okay.
are we focusing on?
Hang on.
Let me see the
Andy,
notes.
while they're trying to find these recorded calls for me,
How did we leave it?
yes, thank you.
Gotta put in dates.
Yeah, so I left promising them a snapshot of homes that they were interested in buying
Okay.
in the areas.
Let me see the notes.
And also I was promised to do some research and try to find a contractor that would work on a smaller scale that they could use. And I delivered both of those.
Okay. What about the listing now? What's the next
They
step in the
said
listing?
they were going to, they emailed me back after about 5 days and said, we still have a couple other agents, but we're traveling to meet with, but we're pretty busy with work, so it's going to take about a week and a half,
Okay.
and then we'll get back to you.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that's not happening is, remember, the one, the one, I don't know what color elephant it is in the room, is price. Okay. That's what it is. And so as time goes on and the remembrance of what you delivered atrophies, you're vulnerable. And that's where content matters. So content, as a continuous part of a continuum of the follow-up, they should be getting properties that are pending and sold around them so that they see a continuous update as it relates to the sold. I understand that they might not do anything until they see where they're going. So you have a double-ended deal here that you have to deal with.
Right.
But as far as that listing is concerned, it is very critical that you continue to leave your positioning there with content. Between now, those are big gaps. Okay. Now,
Right.
a week down the line, there's a big gap. So updates automatically of properties that sold really matter. And if possible, a continuous update on tips. Or, hey, I was thinking about this, I've got a painter if you want me to come over and get, an estimate. You want to leave yourself, when you leave an appointment, if it's not going to happen soon, you want to make sure there's a continuum of the relationship that's supporting the hero of the story with conditioning, with updates on pricing, because that's going to affect them when they finally say, Andy, come back and price it with us, right?
Mhm.
Market's changing now. Cool?
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you
Yep, you're
very
welcome.
much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I think that's relevant to everybody in the sales training call here, is that entirety of the process is quite complicated when you really think about it. And like you said, I think it's more important, Laura, that everybody becomes aware first. Just become aware of what you're saying, how you're doing it. But the safety net is to stay to your formula. Understand where you are and stick to your darn plan. Don't compromise. Well, otherwise everybody's rushing to the bottom.
You're right.
Well, they're going to do that. Well, I don't think they'll do that. Everybody gets defensive.
And they get
And
off track.
The next thing you know, you're defensive, you sound weird, and you're creeping people out, right? And they go away. They do, right?
I don't really remember this phone call. I just know it resulted in a package. I think it
Okay.
could be a good one.
All right, good. So what we're going to do here is again, we've mentioned multiple times that
Picking up the phone.
Yeah, we're picking up the phone, and there's all sorts of calls here, and we have a variety of results, but we want to give you a positive one where you're going to hear what our goal is. And our goal is not to hammer people, and, well, let's see what it listens to, what it sounds like. Let's see. We'll go.
Hello? Hi, may I speak with Olga, please? Yeah, speaking. Hi, Olga. I'm so glad I reached you. This is Autumn. I am calling you from Griffin Realty over in Osterville. And we had sent you back at the end of January, we sent you a package because you have a home, a beautiful home, that is not being listed anymore. And we sent you a package so that you would be able to list it again and get it sold this time. What are your plans?
Well, we don't put it yet, and my husband is the one who's dealing with. I don't know.
Okay, so do you remember getting the package? It had a really nice brochure in it from us. It said 7 steps to home seller success, and it had a beautiful picture of a dining room with the ocean. Do you remember getting that?
I don't.
Okay.
You know what? Send it to P.O. Box?
No, I sent it to Smile and Jack.
Yeah, I don't know because I don't remember. I guess.
All right.
When was that?
That's okay. It was back in late January. Would you like me to send it to you again? It's at P.O. Box 954, right?
Yeah, that's that.
All right. So let me just ask you really quickly. Why do you think that beautiful house didn't sell?
I don't know.
But if you could pick one thing, did you have any open houses?
Yeah.
Did you have any broker opens?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so something, if you had to pick, what would you say? Would you say, oh, the kitchen isn't updated, or there's no...
It's not about that. I think it's because the area.
Oh, the area.
In the community,
The community, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to put together a package for you, and I'll put it in we'll send it to your P.O. box. And I want you to take a look at it. You and your husband sit down and go over it. And if you need any help at all, you give us a call. I'm not an agent. I just work supporting the broker here at Griffin. And I pick people that I pick the houses. I go through the internet. I look at the houses. And I pick ones that I think we can sell. I send you a package. If you want any help, you give me a call. All our cards will be in there.
Okay, that sounds very good. She's a little, to tell you the truth, she's a little discouraged. We put few times and nothing happened. And that's why I don't,
Yeah, well, I like the house, so let's figure out what's going on. And the first step, though, is to just put my brochure and my plan in your hand. And then after that, it's going to be up to you. I'll give you a buzz at some point in the future and make sure you got the package.
Okay, that sounds very good.
All right, I'm excited for you, and I will send it out probably tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. You have a wonderful day, Olga.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I could have gotten off the phone when she said my husband handles it, but I chose not to because that's often a blockade, and that's why I said, please sit down with your husband.
Yeah.
Once she's convinced, I know the husband will go along.
Yeah.
So that was my intuition on that.
Yeah, good. What'd you hear?
A little bit of confusion. I don't think I'd be shocked if she did remember if she got the package, 4 months ago.
Right.
I think there might have been a little bit too much focus on that, but more gearing it towards like their current plans and their feelings about selling the house now and where they're
what
going.
Are they going to do?
I think
it could have been a little
here's
more
what I heard: an opportunity to edit and cut to the chase.
Right.
You have a conversation. She's talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
Your introduction's great. Grant had a nice comment, nice tone and tempo, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think now it's just a matter of editing. It's similar to what we just went through with Andy. It's, you have the context that
Right.
this didn't work out,
Right.
and she's beginning to give you her perception of why not.
Right.
I think you could have gone a little bit deeper in those moments and let her have a little bit more of a moment there.
I didn't know how to.
Hey, Danny.
Yep. Hang on, Paul. Hey, Paul, hang on, and then I'll come to you. Well, I think you do. It's not a real estate specific thing.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? It's
Okay.
like once she says, "Hey, I think this happened," you could hear her saying it throughout the call.
Right.
Right.
And what do I do?
Well, you're absolutely right. Your instinct in the beginning was when you're talking to somebody and they want to kind of push you away by saying, "Oh, my husband handles that." Well, come on. Like, how many women do you know that are
She's the one
married
who
that are
has
just going to let the guy run roughshod over the process? It's not going to
Absolutely
happen.
not.
It's not going to happen. Doesn't
No,
happen.
I
We
push
we
through
talk about this
purposely.
all the time. When the queen is happy, the castle's quiet.
Right.
Period.
Exactly.
Right. So if she's there, she might be aggravated about it, whatever. So I thought that was excellent. I totally
you.
agree. And what it did is it got you to the next level
Yes.
with her, where she began to reveal herself a little bit
Yes.
about her process.
Well, first she said she wouldn't. Remember, she was
Yeah.
throwing up those blockades,
Yeah.
and I had to re-ask.
Yeah. But remember what happens here is this is a failure. It didn't sell,
Mhm.
and something happened.
That's right.
And so I think at this point in time, because you're new to real estate, but not the telemarketing business, I think what you do is you start to say, well, tell me a little bit more about that. Because here's why. It's going to sound like contrarian advice to what I gave Andy
Mhm.
about his edit. Look, just make sure you know what's important to them.
Mhm.
And one of the ways to find that out is to ask them a little bit more.
Right.
See, Andy's in the house. It's different. You're on the phone. You have very little time. And like you said, too much, ad-libbing
chase,
about packages and all that. Who cares? You got a phone call. Do you get the package? It was this is what it looked like. I don't remember. No problem.
Right.
No problem. I'll send you out another one. And what it includes, and I think we have to be more specific than that. What it includes are pictures and details, because it's a simpler line. Pictures and details of properties that sold around you while you were in the market.
Right.
Period. It's
Pictures
not.
and
It is
details.
not a CMA. It is not a comparable market analysis.
Okay.
In fact, that is impossible to do correctly
Pictures and
unless you are
details.
invited into the property and you are properly prepared to discuss it. Right?
Mhm.
I think this industry promulgates too much of an easy definition of what a comparable market analysis is. Analysis is a powerful word, and to me, it means something deep. If I'm in your house, I'm assessing condition, staging, hyperlocation. I have my data with me, what's gone on around you. This is a science
Right.
and an art combined.
Absolutely.
And so you can't go that deep with somebody
Mhm.
on the phone. That's the next. You know what I keep saying about what I just said to Annie? What's the next level of service?
Right.
Right? What's the next level?
Right.
That would be the next level. On the phone, it's like, look, this is really simple. You were on the market, didn't work out. So we took the liberty to look around that price range. And it's not like homes like yours. We don't know that. In fact, that could be a problem if you say it.
Okay.
You sent me stuff that was nothing like mine. I have
Right.
copper nails.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have,
yeah, yeah.
gold gutters.
Okay. So,
Right?
So you're saying what would be the thing to say?
What would be appropriate is to say, we took a look at the property online. It looks wonderful.
Mhm.
We sent you some information with pictures and details of properties that were in a similar price range
Mhm.
that sold. We thought when you saw what they offered, it would be helpful to compare those to yours. That's it. I'm not going to get into,
You
because that's
compare.
the number one part of how we're going to price you. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't even need to think like that. I need to think, I sent you some content information that is super hyper relevant to what you tried to do, right? It's as hyper relevant as I can get without seeing it. I can only see it online. So we took a little bit above and a little bit below what you were asking. And we looked at the neighborhood. And if they were waterfront or water feature or something big like that, we're going to include that, right?
Uh-huh.
And that's the most important thing that you're selling that they want. Now, they might not articulate that they want that, but they do.
Right.
Who doesn't want to know the pictures and details of properties if they tried to sell once
Right.
and they're thinking about it again? Who doesn't want that? We can prove it online. People go online all day long looking at listings.
Right.
And it's just their level of interest or motivation is different. So you're riding that scale. These people tried.
Right.
There's no doubt
And that
that they
house
tried.
is so perfect.
Right.
So perfect.
So let's hold on. So let's keep going because I don't want to lose this other
Okay.
point. So the point is, then she started to let you be her therapist,
Right.
her real estate therapist.
Right.
She started to say things, well, they put up a sign and they did this. And, oh, what do you mean? The realtor put up a sign? See what I'm saying? That was the opportunity
You need to go
to
deeper.
just let her reveal herself more. I wouldn't have cared less if this was a 10-minute call. If what that revealed was, well, why were you selling it in the beginning? It looks like a great spot.
Wish I'd asked.
It's okay.
that.
Look at, this is why we do these,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with this call.
Right.
It's the first step.
Yeah.
And so, and to Andy, the same, there's nothing wrong with his presentation at all. The fact that we're even able to look at these anecdotes and to have an opportunity for tweaks is
Right.
the way that we continue to get better. It's like a guided missile correcting along the way. You still were effective to the extent that you got another package out and there is a potential for follow-up.
Right.
Now, what we did to the seller qualifying questions is the same thing that follows the whole process. It's this reiteration. Let me read these questions just so everybody hears the narrative
Okay.
that can be related to when you're doing your marketing, when you're doing your telemarketing, when you're doing your follow-up long-term, when you're in the house, when you're following up with past clients. It's this whole concept of the hero, that there are questions that allows the hero to tell their story, right? And we did this. I asked you today, when you're qualifying an appointment after there's a yes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's just this concept, okay, just so we can be properly prepared with that information. You know the stuff we sent you 2 months ago? We're going to get a fresh look at it now.
Okay.
You got it?
I needed that.
There you go. We're going to get a fresh look at it now. So I'd like to take down a few more of these details. Let me just reiterate the basics. And it's almost like lead capture all over again. Let me verify I have the right information. All the decision makers are this name, and et cetera. You don't have to go too far in this, but that phase or that beat is the personal and property information phase. Okay.
Right.
When you're intaking an appointment. The next thing is what I wrote down here today when Laura and I were talking was the motivation. Motivation is the number one thing when it comes to selling a property.
So
The question is, well, let me ask all the questions. Why are you thinking about selling the property? Period. This is right off the bat. After I get the property details, why are you thinking about selling? Really? Oh, you going there? Okay. When'd you buy it? You don't have to write these down because they have them. What'd you pay for it? So what we're doing is we're getting a historical perspective. I think some people look at this and say, well, why are you asking me that? Because I'm trying to get a historical perspective, because once I know when you bought it and what you paid for it, my next question is going to be logical. Have you done any upgrading to it?
There you go.
Right? Have you upgraded the property? Or have you sat there and done nothing to it? Because this is a huge issue when it comes to people going to sell their properties. And Andy just discovered it. I need to know what I need to do. Gosh, like everybody, you waited way too long. Why haven't you been chipping away at this all along? Right? Buyers beware if you're listening to this, right? Buyers beware. Everybody goes in and buys a property. Nobody considers the current deferred maintenance that will have to be dealt with and the subsequent maintenance requirements, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge problem in real estate, right? So have you done any upgrading? Now we get a little bit more personal. What's the best feature of the house?
Right.
Okay.
I like that.
Because now we're starting to go into this segue into the story of the house. I got my logistics from you. Got a little bit about you, but now tell me more. Come on, tell me the story. What's the best feature of this place? And what do you like most about living there? Okay? Like those questions are really getting somebody to understand that you're not just interested in the raw data. You're not just transactional black and white, that you're actually asking them, what are the features and benefits of living in this place?
Right.
Well, why do you need to know that? Because you are considering me as a guide, and this is how thoroughly prepared I want to be before I even meet you, let alone take your story out there. Because I'm presuming that I'm your realtor already. So I'm going to act as if this is a done deal between you and I.
Right.
And I'm going to show you at what level I'm thinking about this, because I already know what you're up against. If we cannot extract the features and benefits of your property and extol their virtues, to the public, then
And
what are we talking about
Yeah.
here? Plus, I have to match that story, features, and benefits up with the price
mhm,
because there are other properties with features and benefits at competing prices.
right.
See, I'm stating the obvious here, but nobody states the obvious. So the consumer hero is sitting there guessing.
Mhm.
When what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions
Yeah.
that are conversational. Next, right? Logistics.
Right.
What's most important to you in selling a home? Now I want to know that as you get into this, what's the deal? You know what I mean? Next, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to sell? Now that probably belongs, as we looked at it, going back up top, right? So what I would do is I just wouldn't add a question. So why are you thinking about selling?
Right.
You know, it's a question though. Maybe it is up there. Maybe it's down here, right? Have you interviewed other agents? The reason I put it down here, have you interviewed other agents about selling your home? Okay. Because if you're a 6, okay, now I get why you didn't interview anyone. You're a 10 and you got a cattle call going. Okay, now I get it.
Right.
See, the logistics become about I have to be properly prepared to go into the octagon with my plan.
Right.
I don't know where the attack is going to come from or the distraction. Because
Mhm.
again, if you do this correctly, I think you just worry so much less about competition. If you just focus on the goal that you want to achieve,
Mhm.
competition is not as relevant. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that in a cocky way. It's just not as relevant. What's important is we walk out of that appointment having left an unbelievably positive footprint.
Right.
So strong
Right.
that we think we're in the number 1 position,
Right.
if not listed on the spot.
I always think like that.
Exactly. So have you interviewed other agents about selling your home? If yes, et cetera, and what would be a convenient time? But it was that meat of the middle, that we really get into this. Let me reiterate it. Why are you thinking about selling? When did you buy it? Would you pay for it? Have you done any upgrading? What's the best feature? And what do you like most about living there?
They don't like
Bang,
they
the
don't-
octagon. That's right, DT.
They don't like telling me how much they paid for it though. Remember that horrible conversation?
Correct, because they don't know why.
Oh, because I haven't
Which is
built
my
up
new
to it?
distinction today. Well, not necessarily. We don't understand it. We asked it because interesting perspective change that you just helped me with.
Mhm.
If we think we're the hero of the story and we're transactional, why would we want to know what the property sold for? If we think we're the hero.
Because we're thinking about our sale and our money and
Yep.
we're
And-
not thinking about them. We're trying to make a sale.
And if they paid too much and they're upside down,
Then we're hoping we can
we got a problem, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But now, if you ask it with them as the hero, it's a whole different thing. I need to see if you're going to be set up for success here because you might have some challenges.
Okay.
So you bought it. What year? Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That was a pretty good year because it was a recessionary year. So I'm guessing you got a decent deal. Did you? Yes. You see, if they know why you're asking, it's logical. If you're on a phone call with them and you're provoking them with a
Right.
question and they don't have context,
Then they get me.
everybody gets defensive. Well, why do you need to know that? Well, because what I was going to ask you next, as we do our math, is we have a base for the cost. We have this time frame. And the next question is, well, have you done the upgrading?
Okay.
And if you really want me to ask you the question, how much did you spend on the upgrading?
God, I don't think they would ever tell me that.
Yeah.
Just because of my position. If I were an agent in a house, it would be a different conversation.
They'll tell you.
Really?
They'll tell you. People will tell you anything that they understand is to their benefit.
Anything that's set up.
But
right.
unless you haven't done the job correctly and you haven't explained fully
You
what their
can't.
benefit is, look, if you answer these questions, you're going to have a more beneficial meeting with Danny,
I thought of that last night.
right?
After the one phone call I had yesterday, I thought this is how this needs to be handled. And that's
If I need
exactly
to
it.
tell Danny that this is just a meeting because you want to see him face to face and you don't want to just look at him online, no problem. I'll tell him that. But if you want the deepest dive, most beneficial meeting, this is the system so that we are the most thoroughly prepared to benefit you, whether you choose us or not, which is a statement of a true guide.
For sure.
That's the true guide statement. Whether you choose us or not, we want to leave you with an extremely positive, beneficial meeting that empowers you to make a good decision. You have to believe that. right?
As
Makes
soon
sense?
as you give them verbiage that it's about them and us understanding their story, they will have no problem answering any questions.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Once they understand the context of why you're asking these questions,
That's right.
and that you're not trying to steal the equity out of their home.
And that's why it's
Then
important to
they're
get
fine.
your formula constantly tweaked to understand that. If
Yeah.
you go and you ask these questions in this order, the next most important thing to do is see how they react to it. Did it get easier to get the answers?
Yes.
Did they understand it more fully? So a recording that now becomes important is once there's a yes to an appointment, you have this form ready to go. We're more interested in the recording of that process. See, everything is a process. Everything. And the hero of the story is dictating to you what they like and they don't like about that. And you have to listen
We
and
won't
you have to
really
learn.
know the success of our changes until we hear them asked on the other end and
Okay.
see what the public says. We're just putting them in the order that we think would be the best, but we really won't know until we get feedback.
Yeah, I mean, that phone call yesterday, first of all, I had no conversational style because I had not prepared myself adequately.
Yeah.
So there was
Right.
a problem
That's
immediately.
right. That's right.
I was just diving in
Same
and
ad-
doing a belly flop.
It's even,
That's what
but
happened.
it's better. It's better than that. And I like falling forward. I'm a big believer. Fall
Failing
forward.
that's right.
If you can't go into this and just try something, I think we've talked about that with everybody. If you're not telemarketing, door knocking, meeting people, conversing, you have no place in this business. And you won't have a place in this
And
business.
you learn by your mistakes because
Yeah.
all night last night I was thinking about exactly what you said, saying, I'm only asking so that Danny's very prepared because
Yeah.
he can look historically.
There you go. Yeah.
And you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's right.
So I knew that answer.
And if he's not ready for that, say, okay, so if you want something less than what we would typically do, let me just make sure you understand that. Are you asking him to come over because you want to meet him?
Right,
Is that what you're asking? Just so I can explain it to him.
right.
So there's where I say to Andy, don't lose your formula because
Because
we
they
need
won't
to go
comply.
because they won't
I
comply.
was belly flopping.
Yeah,
And then
it's
she
okay.
came out, and then she pushed my head under.
But it's
So-
okay. But here's the point. What you defaulted to was what Andy did. You just did what you thought was right. And there's that can never be wrong. As long as you treat people with the golden rule in that default moment, there's absolutely nothing wrong. But it is critical to come back and go, let me make some notes.
room for
That
learning.
let me make some notes. That didn't feel right. Let me ask for guidance and help here. I don't know. That just something was wrong
It's
there.
all learning. You have to keep learning. It
Cool.
doesn't stop.
Agreed. Paul, I cut you off earlier. You want to add to that? And plus, we're in we're towards the end of this, so Q&A mode right now. Anybody want to ask questions? Go right now. But I wanted to share this with you. We are ecstatic about this result so far. Ecstatic, right? People need help, and that's good news for all of you. Questions, thoughts, or any other burning sales question while we have time?
I got to go back to the tone. I got one, Danny.
Okay, Doug, hold on. Grant first, Doug second. Go ahead, Grant.
I'm liking the tone and tempo and the content of the call, aside from all the critique and analyzing we did here. It was just two ladies talking about the house. I never once felt there's any kind of sales pitch there.
Yep.
Just getting them some information and wanting to learn more.
Yep.
Very comfortable.
Conversational style,
Yep.
Grant.
Yep.
Conversational style.
Yeah, you should hear them all too. They're all like that, by the way. They're all like that.
I do have
Yeah.
to stop the cheesy hello.
Yeah.
That's gonna go. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't realize how corny that was.
Well, see, that's
because I'm
the-
just feeling it.
But see, yeah, and she's actually quite excited, legitimately, right?
Yeah,
I'm laughing because we it's true. She had to pee herself
I
after,
did.
afterwards.
I
Yeah.
just about
She ran
peed
to
on
the bathroom.
floor.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
So you're right, Grant, and that is the tone of all of them, and we'll get more of them to go through.
Yeah.
But again, the critique was so that the two benefits, or the two scenarios that give us benefit today is the ability to go in and say, look, stick to the yellow brick road, follow that formula. Dougie, go ahead.
So, in this sort of going down this path, I'm looking at door knocking, select expired properties,
Yes.
especially for folks that haven't been able to reach by phone. I'm wondering what that looks like in terms of maybe not necessarily a script. I imagine it's very similar to the call,
Yeah.
But what that might look like.
I think it's almost identical to the call, to tell you the truth. That's what I think. I think it's, it's it's a community service sense. I mean, if somebody's knocking on a door, I think you really have to own that community service mentality that, look, I'm a local realtor and I make it my business to help people when something doesn't seem to have gone right. Now, I don't know whether you took the property off intentionally or not, because that would, disqualify what I just said, but there's a probability that it just didn't work out. So I've got this package here that includes the pictures and details of the properties that were in your price range in this general area that did sell when you're on. I thought that would be helpful and insightful, right? I just think you have to hit the opening beat like that. And I just used a long conversational style to it, not a script, to try to keep you in that frame of mind, Doug, that like you have this guidance. You don't know who will accept it in this neighborhood, but you're darn well going to try to deliver it to as many people as possible. So I think it's the same, Doug. I really do.
We have to go back to the guy that came in yesterday with the card. He just came in and said hello and left his card. If you're not prepared to make a CMA for every single home on the block, you may just want to pop in with a good hello and a handshake and a card.
Well, that's if he's canvassing, but I don't recommend that to them. What I recommend is don't waste that kind of time.
Oh, okay. I was going to say,
yeah, I've coached people like that, and I just can't wrap my brain around that. Here's why. If you have context and you know exactly where that context is, you go there first. You exhaust every one of those.
Okay.
And then if you need to do something else, and it's very, very, like say it was like out around our office and you want to canvass a neighborhood, then that general, like that kid just did, he's gone down to every, realtor on the street and made an introduction. He was smart enough to realize he crashed a meeting. So he got in and out of Dodge.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say that this is nothing more than that glorified business card moment where Doug walks in. But don't forget, it's content. It's a plan. It's the beginnings of a plan. The key here is that you're not doing telemarketing or door knocking for the sake of doing those. Those are mediums for the delivery of a message.
Okay.
And that message is, we have some guidance for you.
Okay.
And here it is, and we want to give it to you. And that's at the foundation of both of these situations, whether he's going to a door or you're on the phone. This is the foundational guidance we're going to give to you. Pretty pictures and details of properties that were in this range that sold.
Nice.
Because there's nothing more powerful. I did it last night when I went to see Mohammed.
Right.
I didn't have a lot of data, like I said, not enough, right? But I had one. And all I had to do is say, Mohammed, check this out. You're exactly right. Your price range is difficult. Look at this one. And we had the pictures.
Yes.
Not even the details.
Yes.
We had the pictures. And as we flipped through them, guess what showed up? A deck overlooking the water for $650. There's no, like, it's over. Instantly.
Yeah.
He knows. He goes, I know. Water. Right? And that was the point. And so it was just over that quickly when the detail was in pictorial form as to what happened. So presumably, if Doug leaves the package with somebody, or we mail the package to somebody, they begin to look at it and they begin to question it.
Okay. Sorry, I made you repeat that.
No. You do it thousands of times. It's a critical, simple point.
Okay.
Is that the number one thing that buyers and sellers want when they first meet you somewhere in your marketing or telemarketing or door knocking marketing is property information. That's what they want. It's the number one thing. It's the number one default.
Yeah, what else would you want?
Exactly. You have no real estate context.
That's the only thing
you got it.
You could possibly want.
So living in a content world, it's important for Doug and you to recognize that you have a piece, and Andy has a different piece of content now. He has the specific plan in his hands that he's going to go over. He becomes infused with the product.
Right.
So he's got the plan, but his insightful guidance now becomes infused in that. So what am I doing? I'm increasing the level of service because it's now appropriate. But at a door, if I've interrupted the guy by accident, didn't mean to interrupt you, just doing a little community service work today as a realtor here, saw that you came off the market a little bit ago. What's in here, a little cover letter that explains the properties and pictures are in there in my plan.
That's brilliant.
I'll follow up with you.
It's brilliant.
Just here. And you get out of Dodge.
Right. In and
right?
out.
Because otherwise you have no context. You have no right to be there. Doug, that makes sense?
It does. You know, and then I sit there and look at, okay, so what does it look like after that? If I'm really just dropping something off,
Follow up.
am
Follow
I going
up.
to sit there and fight to get them back on the phone?
Follow up. Yes, you are. And I don't find it's a fight. I'm watching it right here. I'm just not seeing a fight. I've been waiting for the fight to come. The ogre just won't show up.
Yeah.
He just doesn't show up. I mean,
Well, when I say fight, I mean, my challenge is I'm not getting a lot of people on the phone.
Keep dialing.
Keep dialing. Yeah.
That's the only thing we can say on that. Keep dialing. You know how many times I've heard that in 40 years from supervisors?
Yeah.
Keep dialing.
Yeah. Doug, I'm witnessing it. Some days it can 5 hours with nothing. And the next day, 3 sure send me the packages. And in 30 days time.
I got 6 packages out.
How many hours a week are you here?
Under 20, but
Okay.
20 is my
Okay,
goal.
so under 20, Doug, and we got conversations coming out our ears at the moment. Yeah.
We do.
In fact, our
relationships are happening.
Yeah,
They're
that's
starting to build.
yeah. So Doug, I'm with her. I just think you have to keep
some of them
pounding.
will call you back. I've had a couple people call me back because my number's shown up and I haven't left a message.
Yeah.
They call me back. This one woman this morning called me back and laid tons of properties on me that she's trying to unload.
Doug, I think the best thing would be is if you can call them first and you don't get them after try, you can mix in some door knocking, stick the package in their hands and say, I'll call and follow up once you have a chance to digest it, presuming that that's a door knock that you knew you had the phone number. You follow? Yeah. I just think it sucks to have to slug through the mud, but it's glorious when you find out what's in the mud.
Once you get the relationship going, that's right. It's like eels in the mud. It's like eel hunting. And once you get them, it makes it all worth it because you start to build that relationship. I might even go back to the door a week later and just see if I can raise them up that way and say, hey, do you have any feedback for me?
Yeah.
Any comments? You know, I mean, either way, you do that follow-up. And I'm telling you, setting the appointments has been easier for me than getting the packages out. And it's not hard getting the packages out.
Yeah, cool. All right, listen, let's wrap it there. Dougie, happy to talk to you one-on-one about that a little bit more. Thank you, everybody. Andy, especially you.
One thing.
Yep, go ahead.
One thing, Danny, as I'm going through this, I'm just looking at this and my, even though I cleaned out my database, I'm between Vulcan 7 and Infusionsoft. It's a mess right now. So I need some guidance on, and it doesn't not on this call, but I need some guidance to get that resolved.
Yeah, call me. Call me.
It's maddening right now.
Yep, call me. I'll text you when I'm free this afternoon. I don't want to leave you hanging with that. Let's clean it up because I agree. I think if you just can't sit down at a clean workspace, which includes data, I'm a huge fan on good data. So I'm with you. See, because it turns out, I think it turns out to be an organizational problem, not a tactic problem. So that's good because that's way easier to fix, right?
Yeah.
Way easier. All right, everybody. Good work here today. Thanks to everybody who participated. Go out and try this stuff and bring it back to us. We're happy to listen to your calls and listen in deeply. There's nothing no such thing as perfect, as you can see. And there's nothing but editing and fun. But there are people that desperately need guidance. Go out there and give it to them. All right, everybody. See you later.